Sure. Hey, Coach. Obviously, Washington not having a great year. You guys handled them pretty handily in Las Vegas a month ago, but a venue where you haven't had a lot of success over the years, and Washington maybe playing a little better. I played, was leading UCLA, I think 10 at the half the other day. Easy reminders for your team to make sure they don't look past an opponent that has been struggling a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, I hope we learned something from Utah. We're down, Utah by 10 at the half, and play well in the second half, come back and win it. But that was another game, right down the stretch. It was a one-possession game and could have gone either way. So you're right. Washington is much improved. Going through their personnel, they've got good players, and they've been right there in a lot of games. They just haven't pulled them out, and they're much better at home than they are on the road, like most teams. And so yeah, we gotta put our hard hats on, because again, UCLA they scored in the 70s. We barely got in the 60s, and they've got talented players. They got guys that are playing a lot better now than they were against us. And I look at Stevenson as one. He's been really shooting the ball well here over the last 4 or 5 games. If you look at his numbers. Amir Wright has been shooting the ball better over the last few games, if you look at his numbers. Deshonis, who comes off the bench, is playing really well for him. Quade Green is, he's averaging almost 20 points a game, just under 19. So, yeah, they got some guys who can put it in the basket. Soren gave us problems in Vegas, his size, and he's playing better. So, yeah, they got some good players that we've got to be dialed into and have a great defensive game plan. And then, like always, when you play against Washington, you got to be able to handle that zone.
Okay, Eric Christensen.
Hey, Tad, how you doing?
Hey, Eric.
Good to see you again. I've noticed, maybe I'm wrong, it looks like this team's a little more willing to run. In that Stanford game, it seemed like they were really apt to get up and down the court. Maybe they're late. They might have taken some too quick shots. But I'm just wondering if you're giving this team more of a freedom to get out and run as opposed to past teams.
Certainly, not necessarily. No, not more than in teams past. What this team is doing, Eric, is they've committed to running. In the past, we've talked about running. We've been interested in running. Sometimes we would, sometimes we wouldn't. This team is committed to it, and it's something we've really. Coach Greer, Bill Greer's done a really good job in the off season and in the preseason, during the season, of really kind of putting a lot of emphasis and helping me put a lot of emphasis on transition offense. Because if you look at the numbers last year, we weren't a very good transition offense team. So something we really committed as a staff to do a better job of. We've worked on it a lot more, and our players have bought into it. And you're right. The Stanford game, we took some quick shots there in the second half, but I loved the pace of the game because playing at altitude, it gives us a major advantage. That's a different maybe situation than I would want if we're playing at Stanford. So if we're playing at Stanford, I'm saying, no, we're not. We're going to run, but we're not going to take those shots that we took in the event center last Saturday against those guys. Yeah, or Sunday, whatever day it was. I can't remember now. But so if that makes sense, we want to run at home. We want to track meet at home, especially against teams that are coming from sea level.
Okay, Neil Welk.
Hey, Coach, you've had some success on the road this year, won some big games, USC in particular. Is there anything you can take away that you did well to win road games as opposed to when you didn't play well, or is it just a matter of matchups?
I think a lot of it has to do with our defense, Neil, quite frankly, because usually teams in their own building, they're in their own environment. They've practiced on those rims in their gym. They're very comfortable there. So I think if you can find a way to guard people when you're on the road and make it really tough for them to score, and then, again, going back to Eric's point and question previous, is if you can get those stops, now you have an opportunity to run and score in transition. So we still want to run in Seattle like we want to run at home, but to get those stops and to give your opportunity, your offense an opportunity to score in transition, that's key, especially when you're playing a team like Washington. When they get that zone set up in the half court, they're a handful because that zone's hard to score against. The best way to score against the zone is don't let it get set up and you get stops and run in transition, we can hopefully do that.
Okay, Pat Rooney.
Coach, I'm just I've been curious about something. You know, it was less than 2 years ago you played Washington in the Pac-12 semifinals. Since then, they've had 3 first-round draft picks. I know a couple of those guys were last year that came after. But just in terms of building a program, is this maybe an interesting, maybe contrast of styles for how you like to do it? And obviously, you have a handful of good freshmen that aren't playing a lot, and a good class coming in next year.
Yeah, again, Pat, I don't, other people do their business the way they do their business. It's one thing about college athletics I really like is you can kind of come up with your philosophy and game plan, and then you stick to it, you try to execute it, and other teams do the same thing. So I can't speak to Washington. I know they've had some good players. They do a great job recruiting. Mike Hopkins spent a long time at Syracuse, has connections all up and down the East Coast. He's been around a long time. Good guy, so he's got people like him that want to help him. So they're gonna sign good players, but the way we do it is a little bit different, a little bit. I don't know if it's called antiquated now or not, but sign the high school kids, develop them. Again, we've thrown in a graduate transfer this year for the first time. Don't rely on the transfer market a lot, but look, the world is changing. The landscape of college athletics. You look at the football transfer portal right now, and you're going to see the same thing with basketball players in the spring. So that's just a nature of the beast right now. You got to adapt. You got to be nimble and open-minded, but also stick to what your philosophies are, what your core values are, which is recruit great kids from great families who want to get better and want to work hard and are all about the team and have high character. And that's the one thing about our team, I think, as much as anything, is why we're having success. And Neil, going back to why can we win on the road and why we've got character guys, we got toughness. Obviously, we got some veterans, but you can't go on the road and win if you don't have character and toughness. And so that's something we really, really value in our program. And we've been able to pretty much to a man. There's not one guy I can talk to on our team and say that guy doesn't have a very high character. Those guys don't exist at Colorado.
Okay, Eric, go ahead.
Ted, I think it was after the Cal game you were telling that story about how you had never seen McKinley Wright play in person when you recruited him. I'd never heard that before, but I guess my next question regarding that is, once you saw him in person at Colorado, how long did it take for him to confirm what you saw on tape or actually exceed it?
About a week. It wasn't long, Eric. I'm telling you. I mean, there's certain guys that, and I've said this about McKinley, a lot, but he's got the it factor. And, I don't know what it is, but you know it when you see it. And you feel it when you talk to him. And so, yeah, it took not very long at all. Not very long at all. And, and I could go on about stories about McKinley, right? Again, he's all about winning. He's all about the team. I remember, again, I mentioned Dom Collier was, a senior that year, and McKinley came in and really had a lot of respect for Dom and what he'd done here. And he came into my office, not too far before the season started, and said, "Coach, I just want to help this team win. I'll come off the bench. I'll be the backup behind Dom. I'll do, whatever I can do to help this team win. That's what I want to do." And that was unsolicited. And I just, in the back of my mind was like, "Yeah, Ken, you just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll figure all that out." And he was in the starting lineup pretty much from day one. But he played with Dom. But my point is, that's the kind of guy he is. That's the kind of teammate he is. He wasn't coming in to ruffle feathers. Now, he wasn't backing down. He wasn't submitting to anything or anybody. But he was just all about the team. And when you got your best player who's coachable and is all about the team, man, your job as a coach is a little bit easier. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a little bit easier for sure.
Okay, Pat Rooney.
Coach, just wondering how much of a difference the lower turnover rate has meant for your team this year. Obviously, that starts with McKinley. His turnovers are down, but you got guys like Eli, Maddox Daniels that are playing more minutes. Their turnovers per minutes are down. How much has that made a difference from last year to this year?
Big difference, Pat. And I would say that's the one of the bigger differences between this year's team and last year's team. I think our offensive efficiency is better. And I think it shows up in the numbers in the Ken Palm and things like that. When you don't turn the ball over as much, you're more efficient offensively. I mean, you're going to shoot what you shoot from the field. The balls that go in are going to go in. The balls that are going to not go in aren't going to go in. But if you can just get a few more shots on goal, every game, and in certain games, instead of having 18, you got 9. That's 9 extra shots you're getting. And again, offensive rebound is something that this team I've mentioned may not be the strength, but we've done a good job at times and in stretches offensive rebounding. Again, you get ready to play a team like Washington. One of the hardest things to do in a zone is to box out. So we've got to do a good job of rebounding the basketball after we shoot it, tomorrow night, because again, if the shots aren't going in, we got to find other ways to score, which is getting the foul line and second shots.